Bizarre Reality Media. Bizarre Inquiries with Shayn Orin. Welcome, Bizarre Rights and Inquirers, to Bizarre Inquiries, the show where we start with a clip, article, or inquiry and let our minds wander. I am the one that they call Shane Squatch, a.k.a. the original Shane Squatch.
Attitude. I got a big cock and an attitude, I do.
That's an interesting way of putting. That makes sense.
And alongside me, I have the infamous Big Bad Boo Daddy, Sir Orin Felix himself.
Here come daddy.
Get them dicks out.
Well, let's not start sucking each other's dicks quite yet.
You said you wanted to slap, so I threw it in there.
Two thoughts. I mean, first off, are you trying to tell us something? Like you've been like really fixated on dicks here lately. It seems like.
I figured I'd mix it up a little bit. We talk about a lot of moans and stuff. So you said you wanted something dirty, so I wanted to throw you something dirty but different.
Well,
and actually, fun part of one of those clips, I stole it out of another one of a comedy podcast that I listened to. So one of them is a totally new original clip that hopefully nobody else has used before.
well, that let's not start sucking each other's dicks quite yet from Pulp Fiction. That's like my favorite line of that movie. So I'm glad you threw that in there.
I'm glad you caught that one because that was the lead up. Was the let's get them dicks out. That was from that podcast. So, like I said, two totally new isos. I want to mix it up for you. I want to steer it away from what you were expecting with moaning women and instead give you dicks and men. So, sorry, but that's what you get this week.
I think you're just like Freudian slipping over there. You're just trying to tell us something.
Gonna see a bunch of phallus-like looking objects in the back. All of a sudden, this alien over here is just gonna have a phallus on the front of it. This little ghost, phallus, everything, just a phallus. I don't know what else to say about it. Just phallus is everywhere, man.
That's good.
And getting into, I guess, what we're going to get into today. Last time I had kind of done it a little bit differently, where instead of having a direct clip or article, I kind of led into an idea. We definitely have the funny one in the back end. We got something as far as
I
conspiracies
bet you got
go.
a funny one in the back end now.
I definitely got a funny one in the back end from Florida. Ooh. And then in the middle, of course, we got some conspiracies for you guys. But diving into this first topic, and again, this will seem a little bit weird, but we'll come around to it. And Orin, I'm sure you'll probably have some thoughts as we go along the way, and maybe you'll kind of get what we're leading into here. But without further ado, I will bring up the first video for you guys to check out here.
In September 1959, during a routine military exercise at Mount Ararat, a Turkish army captain stumbled upon something extraordinary, having grown up hearing the stories of Noah's Ark. Captain Darupinar couldn't believe his eyes as he looked upon a boat-shaped formation in the ground. A team of archaeologists was called to investigate what would become a project spanning more than 60 years. Initially, the site was dismissed as a geological anomaly, but things changed dramatically in 2019. A ground-penetrating radar scan revealed subterranean layers and angular structures, which are uncommon in natural formations. Specifically, parallel lines 9 feet below the surface that appeared to be rooms. The team also discovered drug stones, which they believe were used to stabilize the boat. In September 19...
So originally, this first one, of course, is the whole idea of Noah's Ark. And again, we will kind of get into the full cycle on this one, but what's your initial thoughts on this one? Do you think that there might be some validity to it? Also, I want to throw in, taking into consideration what we talk about on the show with the whole idea of stories being retold, that they originally start with something and then they turn into something else through language. Not to mention, of course, the Bible has been brought through many different languages before it was brought to English, but at least with this one, whether or not you're a believer in anything, I mean, what's your initial thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think whether you believe in, the Christian God or anything of that nature, I mean, the fact that basically every culture on the fucking planet has a flood mythology or a flood legend, I mean, that's one of those where there's smoke, there's fire things. I mean, there's just so much evidence.
Epic of Gilgamesh has a straight up Noah or Moses character too, or not Noah. Epic of Gilgamesh has a straight up Noah character on top of it too, just to throw that one in there.
Yeah. So, I mean, not only like geologically, but just with mythologies and legends, there's enough smoke that I think it's probably just an irrefutable fact at this point that there was some sort of mass flood. I mean, was it truly global and wiped out, everybody but 8 people? I don't know about that, but I think it probably was a really fucking big flood. Now, like whether, this thing is the actual Noah's Ark or not, I mean, that remains to be seen. Something that happened that long ago for it to be preserved that well seems kind of unlikely to me. But yeah, I totally believe in the validity of a large scale flood that happened in antiquity.
See, and my thing with this whole thing is, again, matter of language. I'm not trying to disprove anything specifically, but the whole idea of the world flooding. If your world is a matter of consisting of this region, to you, the whole world flooded. People may be looking at it in context of the entire planet flooded, when maybe it could possibly be just the known world, quote, to everybody that was around for, this era of history, this area flooded. And it doesn't seem out of the question to me that, you already hear about all these cases of people experiencing like premonitions of things to come. If you get this like bad feeling, people can chalk that up to whatever it is. But simply if, there was a man who had a feeling that something bad was coming, he started seeing there was something going on in the skies, things were getting dark, whatever. And he possibly tried to just collect as much family as he could, his farm animals, all of that type of stuff, just trying to preserve, what he possibly could. Again, there's like 2 different ways of looking at it. I'm starting to kind of view a lot of this stuff as, regardless of the faith aspect, I think that there's a lot of historical context and things that are indisputable as far as this historical figure existed. Like I said, regardless of the God component, you take that away, I still think that a lot of these figures did exist and these stories carried on in these places, locations, things are real things. It's just a matter of, again, which viewpoint you kind of want to view the context of how he may have possibly known that something like this was coming.
Yeah, I mean, I think I pretty much agree with you wholeheartedly on all of that. I've probably said this on the show before. I grew up in a very, Christian household. We went to church every Sunday. I went to church camp every summer. But, just a lot of things about organized religion in particular never really jived with me. But now I probably like believe the Bible more than I ever have in my entire life because of all those things that you mentioned. Like there's just so much to unpack as a historical document without even, taking into consideration all the more fantastical aspects, we'll just say.
Exactly. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, you think that with doing a lot more research, people would inevitably lead into this point of like being like, oh yeah, it's all just folklore, it's all just myth. But even for me, the more that I've dived into this stuff, the more that I've researched it, like I said, regardless of context on what you believe the spiritual side of things are, the events like are becoming undoubtedly things that I believe have happened throughout time. And again, it's a matter of perspective and trying to explain things in the best language that they could at the time. And also, again, people want to talk about the very literal word specifically, but that's almost impossible to do at this point with an English context to it because it's been translated multiple times and everybody knows languages don't transfer exactly. So when you dive into some of these stories, a lot of people try to go by like, these are the exact words, but even within like, English variations of the Bible, the wording does change a hair bit. So it's like, you kind of have to draw in the bigger context rather than hyperfixating on the specific exact words of everything. Because again, trying to describe things the best way you could at the time and also trying to translate them the best way you could at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I always say, people trying to describe indescribable things with the best language they had. And what could these things really mean in like a quote unquote real world modern day context? And again, like I always say, change one fucking word. And the Jonah and the whale story becomes not, this fantastical story about this guy being swallowed by a big fish, but, oh, this was a USO probably that abducted this guy. Or take, the Immaculate Conception, change one word and that becomes an alien abduction story. And that's, not to sound sacrilegious or talk down to anybody's faith or anything like that. But I mean, at the very least, I think it's just very interesting to look at any of these old accounts and old legends and old stories with kind of a more modern day lens.
And we will continue on with these, of course, so you can kind of throw in another spin on them. They will get a little bit weirder as we go on. The next one, it was just a matter of it was something semi-recent that was being talked about, so I wanted to throw it in here. I know that there's kind of a mixed feelings on this one, so, feel how you want about it, but it's going to get a lot weirder with the next two. I just wanted to throw this one in because it's been talked about a lot recently. So, without further ado, let's start this clip up.
This is believed to be the actual remains of Lot's wife. Discovered near the Dead Sea, close to where Sodom and Gomorrah are thought to have been located, there is an unusual pillar that some claim is Lot's wife. Archaeologists have studied its strange shape and found that it is composed of 80% salt. What makes this discovery so intriguing is that the Bible says God turned Lot's wife into a pillar of salt when she looked back at the burning cities. While it has not yet been confirmed whether she is encased within the salt, the site provides compelling evidence. This includes millions of pure sulfur balls, mountains of ash covering ancient buildings, and clear burn marks found throughout the area. The site also aligns perfectly with the biblical timeline and location described in Genesis, including Lot's cave, where he hid during Sodom's destruction. This cave is located near the ruins of the cities and matches the geographical details provided in the biblical account. Local legend and archaeology also support the claim, with early Christians building a church around it as a sign of reverence, further adding credibility to the discovery.
So what's your initial thoughts on this one?
So here again, I think there's probably some truth in, well, not some, I think there's probably a lot of truth and validity to the whole Sodom and Gomorrah account. Again, it just depends on what could these things really mean in a real world context. Of course, I know you've heard, same as I have, a lot of people speculate that, whatever happened at Sodom and Gomorrah could have been some sort of nuclear event, that extraterrestrials or some advanced civilization.
Keep that in mind with the nuclear concept, because the last point that we come around will have some context with that. So keep that one on the back burner too.
Okay. But again, is this, formation really Lot's wife? Probably not. I find that even harder to believe than the fact that they actually found the, Noah's Ark. But here again, kind of the same thing as I said for the previous video. I think the point of this video, I absolutely can get behind. The particulars and the details, maybe not so much, but that's kind of irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. It's, the idea that's the most important thing.
See, I'm kind of with you on that one. As far as like the Sodom and Gomorrah story, I think that 100% there is validity to that story in the aspect of you got to even think about astronomical events, even beyond God, of course, or just things happening in the area, possibly nuclear events, different things like that. So like the whole Sodom and Gomorrah story, I put 100% faith and validity behind the fact that this was a real location, real place. And not to mention, the more they've dived into that region, they just find more and more of these different areas where they look like they were scorched earth. Where I remember digging into one a couple years ago where somebody was claiming that they found a spot where there was like granite that was literally scorched and destroyed from something. So clearly there was some type of event that had happened in this area. And as far as the specifics with the Lot's wife concept, there's two ways to possibly look at it. If you're looking at the fact that you could be dealing with beings that are beyond our capability of understanding, whatever you want to view that as, God, angels, aliens, whatever you want to say, there might be a possibility for there to be a way to possibly convert like water molecules into sodium molecules. Like, I don't know how close those are relatively, but with advanced technology, maybe there is some validity to that. But even on the other side, the point that I was kind of thinking with this one, the whole story of Lot's wife with that thing, there could have been a matter of people coming up, seeing this after this area was destroyed, seeing this thing, thinking that it looks like a woman, and then putting this whole story to the fact that this pillar looks like a woman. This could be the exact pillar that they were talking about when they formed this. But again, when it comes to the context of things, because even in the Bible, they talk about after the city gets destroyed, Lot's not really heard from again. So if you're writing the Bible from the human perspective, God would know whatever happened to Lot, but theoretically the people wouldn't. So essentially they could create whatever type of mythos that they wanted out of that. And even with the whole aspect of like Lot escaping, it could also just kind of be a metaphor for there are kind-hearted people within, a messing of a bunch of awful types of people. So, just the idea that somebody survived could have been one of those things that gave people hope. So, maybe it was simply a man got away and they created this whole mythos about it. or simply nobody made it out and they created a mythos for the inspiration that maybe somebody made it out of this, just so that they have that connection that somebody made it, you know? Like, it's hard to tell when you get so far away from the original events to really start diving into this. But that being said, if they somehow tear this rock pillar apart and end up finding something on the inside, I am more than happy to completely change my mind on any theories that I've recommended on this one. But, you know, I definitely have to view things from multiple perspectives, which is kind of the whole point that I'm trying to lead into with a lot of this stuff. Is a lot of people try to discredit the Bible, and they take all this time discrediting the Bible for the more magical aspects of it, for lack of a better term, or the more, you know, God aspects of it, for lack of a better term. But main point that I'm trying to make here is you really have to look at this document specifically for the fact of the historical context, because if it's been a document that is so important through time that people have preserved, clearly there is something to it, regardless, you know, of your belief system. Like, what not a better way, when even just another prime example, when you start diving into Japanese folklore / history, it all starts to blend together. So why would we not expect that we wouldn't start seeing the same thing in other places, that you have these principles that can't be explained and the historical facts that start getting blended together, and then they become this whole other thing that's aside from maybe even what the original writers were trying to portray at the time?
Yeah, I mean, so just a couple random thoughts that I jotted down here while you were talking. But first off, the whole thing about like Lot not being mentioned again, something that I think people don't talk about enough with the Bible or any of these kind of ancient documents is, you know, all these accounts took place over hundreds or, you know, in some cases thousands of years. They're just giving you like the fucking high points here. You know, there's not enough time or enough bandwidth to document every single little thing that happened. And so it makes sense that, okay, here is this big, massive thing that happened, and we don't really need, in the historical context, to know what happened a lot after that. So I think, you know, that kind of makes a lot of sense if you zoom out. And, you know, something you said about people kind of going out of their way to poo-poo the validity of the Bible. I mean, we talk all the time on the show about, you know, cryptid encounters or alien encounters or any kind of high strangeness. And people do the same thing nowadays with those kind of accounts where, oh, it was a meteor and then an owl and then this thing happened and then this thing happened, where it just takes much less faith to believe that something kind of weird happened. And so I think, you know, this is par for the same course. It's just we're dealing with stories that are thousands of years old and have all this, you know, spiritual and religious context baked into them.
Not to mention the fact that it's like almost every religion, the majority of religions stem from this point, and then they all split off into different directions from there. So even with that context, considering that this history is important to not just one religion, but multiple religions. And then again, there's like the splitting off point, but all the Abrahamic religions all essentially start from the same place. So if there's not just one group of people, but multiple groups of people trying to preserve this, again, there has to be some validity to it. If people are willing to die to preserve this documentation of what these events that happened, like, they're not just doing that for fictional stories.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of the context, like, something happened.
Well, and it's like we talk about all the time with, like, you know, even cave paintings or yeah, I think we've talked about it with like Native American legends and things like that. Like, when people had to like carve these stories and these depictions in stone, or they had to literally remember these stories and pass them on, like, we're not talking about fucking fairy tales and bedtime stories here. These people were documenting what happened and what was important to them, again, with the best language they had. But I mean, to think that these people would have put that much effort into something that basically boils down to entertainment, I just don't put a lot of validity in that.
Exactly. That's kind of what I'm saying with it. Now we're going to get into the even weirder stuff. And this is probably one of the weirder ones, and then we'll get into the ultra weird one that literally has some government documents attached to it. But
Okay.
without further ado, let's bring up the next one. And I know a lot of people aren't necessarily fans of the main person talking on this clip, so I apologize in advance for that, but it fills in the most information. And it is from Joe Rogan, but again, not very many people are fans of the guest on this episode.
They verified the Shroud of Turin. Have you seen that?
They used to think that it was only a couple hundred years old.
Yeah.
And now they've changed that.
Yeah, they said no, it's back then.
They also don't understand how it was made, which to me is very fascinating because it's not paint. It's not, they don't know what caused the image itself and how that technology would have even been available
It wasn't. No.
a couple thousand years ago.
An intense light, I mean, atomic, to leave almost like a photographic imprint on a piece of cloth.
Yeah.
Urged, beaten. The hairstyle was from the 1st century. And the pollens that they found in the cloth were from that region.
Yeah.
Also, the weave was a 1st century weave. And another guy, an archaeologist who I knew, told me that if you look close, you can see that the image of the Tiberius coin marks on the eyes. Now, I don't know if that's real or not. I've never actually checked that, but there's images of Tiberius on the coin.
So they would put the coins over the eyes.
I mean, just read.
And just to throw in a little bit more context on this one, I was recently listening to a scientist actually break this one down, and they have tried to reproduce this because the image doesn't go all the way through the cloth. It is only on the initial first layer of the cloth. And the only way you're able to see it is in photo negative because it's really, really hard to see in the normal image. So with modern day science, like this was something that they were doing within the last year or so, they still can't reproduce whatever happened to have created this. And not to mention the fact that it's basically a photograph on fabric that still can't be explained. So again, going into the more atomic stuff and the nuclear stuff, like you mentioned earlier, I kind of want to get your thoughts on this one too.
What's funny about this is, I keep like a running Word document of ideas and thoughts and things I might want to touch on for the show and deep dives and whatnot. And the Shroud of Turin was like one of the things that's on my like running list of possible topics. So that's funny that you brought it up.
Well, we can still do a deep dive on it. We can just kind of, quick over it, but I'd be still willing to do a deep dive. There's a lot of information on that thing. It is weird, dude.
Well, and that's kind of why I didn't do it, because once I got like digging into it, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be like a huge undertaking if I'm going to do justice to this. So I was like, I don't have the time or bandwidth to do this topic justice right now. But anyway, I think there's a lot of weird things with this, like you said. And again, going with the atomic angle, even if you don't subscribe to, the whole Christian aspect of it, it seems like there's enough evidence that there's just something legitimately strange with this artifact. Now, whatever that might be, who knows? But here again, I think it's a smoke and fire situation. There's enough smoke that there's something weird going on with this, no matter what you believe or what religion you ascribe to.
And just to throw this one in here, and I'm not saying that it's aliens. I just want to throw that out there directly. I'm not directly saying it's aliens. I'm just referring to the fact that I think that there's multiple things that have been called the same thing. But if you take the context of like alien abduction, for example, you talk about the bright lights people see, the bright flashes, all these different things, whatever those are, because I know people have context on aliens, whether they're, extraterrestrial, or if they're demons or they're angels or they're whatever they might happen to be. Again, we could be talking about the same thing. Is it possible that the reason why we can't reproduce this and the reason why like this is something that's beyond us is because it could link into something that's advanced technology that might link in with some of the abduction type experiences that we're seeing today? Because almost every single alien abduction experience that we've dived into on the show, tell me there's not some point with a bright flash of light or an orb or some form of light.
And that, gets back to the idea. And again, not to sound sacrilegious, but, some people have suggested, could Jesus actually have been like extraterrestrial himself or a hybrid or something along those lines? And you're talking about some sort of technology being used to create this effect. We talk all the time on the show about, on a long enough continuum, any technology is going to look like witchcraft or magic or something like that. So, I mean, it's all about language, like we always talk about. But here again, I think no matter what you believe on the Christianity side of things, there's enough interesting things to dig into with all three of these topics. But I think especially the Shroud of Turin, like this is some pretty cool stuff, no matter what you believe.
See, and that's one of those things that, again, no matter what you believe, I think that Jesus, regardless, was a real person. Whether he was a philosophical teacher or the literal son of God or whatever you want to happen to call it, like no doubt in my mind, I believe that there was this figure, this person that was Jesus. Like, I don't think he's this mythos character. It's just a matter of like, who was
what
he exactly?
Actually was. Yeah.
But regardless of that, I mean, you got to look at the fact that all this dude did was teach to people to be good to each other. Like the context of everything that he taught was all positive things. So again, whether you follow the philosophy of Christ or you follow him as the Son of God, I mean, the guy clearly was trying to do good at the time, especially in a chaotic region at the time.
Yeah, and it's not much of a stretch to think that this figure, whatever Jesus was some sort of, Buddha or Dalai Lama type figure. And you don't have to put all the religious connotations onto it to believe that there's some validity to all of these stories. And again, like you said in the previous section, people, I think, go out of their way to not believe things and to disprove things. And I think so many people don't want to believe things like this because, nowadays we feel like we've learned everything. There's nothing new to discover. We know everything. We've got an explanation for everything. Science can account for everything. And I think it terrifies people that there could be something out there that we can't explain. And that goes back to religion or, aliens, cryptids, anything like that we talk about on the show.
Dude, diving into all of this, like, religious, real connections into the, like, physical history of the world, like, that nobody can deny, dude. It's just completely mind-blowing, dude. It's just got me diving through all this stuff. Dude, I listened to, like, a 2-hour thing the other day on the Shroud of Turin and all the modern research that they're doing on it, dude. And it's still one of those things that it's like, if they had the ability to throw anything at it to discredit it, that it would be all over the internet. But there is literally nobody that's been able to discredit this. So, like, there is clearly something to this, undeniable, of whatever you believe.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, at some point it takes more faith to believe that something at least out of the ordinary didn't happen than it does to just be like, something weird happened.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of that, of course, we are going to be diving into one of your personal favorite things. You ready for this, sir?
I am ready.
It's something that
belongs in a museum.
All right.
And I'm sure you get what we're starting to hint to with this one, because I think we talked about it on a semi-recent show. But let's bring this up in context. Another good one from Joe Rogan.
In Ethiopia, there's a specific church in Ethiopia that has always been rumored to be the place where the Ark of the Covenant is stored. And there's these guarders, these people that are guards of this area, and they all develop cataracts. They all have like radiation poisoning, and they're guarding this one particular area. They won't let anybody look at it. They won't let anybody talk about it. And Graham got fascinated by this. They started doing a deep dive into history and historical accounts of the covenant and the Ark and all these bizarre stories that have lasted throughout history. And the real evidence that there was really sophisticated societies that lived thousands and thousands of years ago, when we kind of assumed that people were hunters and gatherers. He believes that society had reached a very, very sophisticated level of technological achievement, and then something happened, and now we're living in like a rebuild.
And I do have a lot more stuff that's going to get weirder, but this is one of those things that you can go one of two ways, man. Like, there's the undeniable fact that there could have been these 10 rules, the 10 commandments that were created. They took all their gold, they put it together, they melted it down, they created this box, and they decided to store that in that. Like, there is nothing that's woo-woo about that concept in my head. But when it starts getting really, really weird is when you start getting into stories such as the Walls of Jericho, where they were walking around the walls, blowing the trumpets, and they had the Ark of the Covenant. And then you start diving into things like this, where people are experiencing radiation poisoning and they're going blind, and there could possibly be the Ark of the Covenant that's possibly in this area. Like, that's when stuff starts getting really weird, where you start wondering, like, what potentially could this thing actually be? And that'll kind of lead into the next idea on what might their other interest be in this thing. But I want to get your initial thoughts on this one too.
So I'll try to keep my thoughts kind of quick on this one so we can get on to the next clip. But I've heard in the past about this idea that the Ark of the Covenant is in this temple in Ethiopia. I think that's really interesting. And again, the idea that the Ark of the Covenant could be some sort of technological / paranormal, whatever you want to call it, device, I think is kind of interesting in light of the fact of a lot of things we've talked about recently on the show, whether it be Operation High Jump or, we talked about Kecksburg and the Nazi Bell recently. So the fact that, the Nazis believed in this type of thing, they were trying to find these artifacts, and the Nazis in the 40s had technology that we still don't understand how they had. I mean,
they were supposedly the last that had the Spear of Destiny.
Exactly.
According to,
I mean, don't at me. Don't cancel me. Not saying the Nazis had anything figured out or anything like that, but the fact that these people who, had all these technological breakthroughs that we are still trying to replicate now, put this much stock in the validity of these artifacts, I think is at least an interesting idea to think about.
Hey man, as far as I know, this thing melts faces.
That belongs in a museum.
Yeah, what that guy said. So this is the main point that I want to get into that starts getting really, really weird. Have you heard of Project Sunstreak?
I don't think so.
So, Project Sunstreak was a 1970s and 1980s intelligence effort by the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency, the DIA, and other agencies to explore the use of individuals with alleged psychic abilities, known as psychic spies, for intelligence gathering. The project aimed to collect information on distant events using these paranormal capabilities. Though its efficientness is questionable, it is eventually terminated, similar to other government-sponsored psychic research programs like Stargate Project, which, for funny context, actually, this was a faction of the Stargate Project. And I know a lot of people talk about how there's this supposed government document that makes reference to they might know potentially where the Ark of the Covenant is. And this is what I've been leading to. The whole point of what I always say all the time on the show, if there wasn't some sense of validity to it, why would the U.S. government make an effort to spend the money to do these types of things? And like I said, I spent 2 hours trying to find this document last night because Ark of the Covenant would not pop up as one of the main things on here. But I wanted to read through some of this document to see what exactly they supposedly experienced that with this. So the target is a container. This container has another container inside of it. The target is fashioned of wood, gold, and silver. The target is similar in shape to a coffin and is decorated with seraphim. The target is located somewhere in the Middle East, as the language spoken by individuals present seem to be Arabic. So that's not, by the way, stating that it's not in Ethiopia, by the way. Mm-hmm. And also, just another weird context, Ethiopia was the only one that was still using the Book of Enoch until people kind of restarted getting into that concept. And the Book of Enoch gets into the weird interdimensional stuff. So maybe a connection, maybe not. Might be something to it. But visuals of surrounding buildings indicated the presence of mosque domes, which possibly could look like some of those places in Ethiopia. Individuals in the area were clothed in virtually all white, had black hair, and dark eyes. One figure I homed in on wore a mustache. The target is hidden underground, dark and wet, where all aspects of the target. The purpose of the target is to bring a people together. It is something to do with ceremony, memory, homage, and the resurrection. There is an aspect of spirituality, information, lessons, and historical knowledge far beyond what we know now. The target is protected by entities and can only be opened by those who are authorized to do so. This container will/cannot be opened until the time is deemed correct. Once it is time to open the container, the mechanics of the lock system will be found to be fairly simple. Individuals opening the container by prying or striking are destroyed by the container's protectors, though the use of power unknown to us, or through the use of power unknown to us. Sorry, it's starting to get tongue-tied. And kind of going a little bit farther into these documents, because a lot of it's just like names and signatures, they start going into some pictures that start looking like the pillars and the area that they claim to have seen this thing. I think they actually have a picture of what they claim to have seen as the Ark itself. I think it's towards the bottom. Let me find it. Right here. The Mosque Dome, supposedly where it's located at. But, here's the other part. The things that we're watching as this person was supposedly, astral traveling to this area where the supposed Ark of the Covenant is. And this is where the whole conspiracy kind of comes in, is a lot of people talk about this concept of, they might actually have the Ark of the Covenant. I mean, definitely seems like there might be some validity to it, considering that they have used these astral projection missions to do a lot of different things. But the initial conspiracy on where this whole thing started from the government possibly having the Ark of the Covenant was from this document. And this is what I was kind of trying to lead into, was the whole point of, if there's not validity to this, why would they spend the time to do it? And also, if they see that there is potential for this thing as a weapon, after doing this, is it possible that they may have went and tried to retrieve it?
Yeah, I mean, first off, we talk about like MK Ultra and remote viewing and all that sort of stuff that the government was involved in and researching and funding. So, like you said, they're not going to put effort and money and time into something that they don't think they can benefit from. And furthermore,
this was only 1988 to throw in too. So this wasn't even back in the 60s
yeah,
during MK
so,
Ultra or
I mean,
anything.
that's
This was
relatively recently. But you know, you were talking about trying to harness whatever power this device has for weapons or whatnot. The government's not going to do anything that they either can't weaponize or make money off of. So, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me that even if, you know, everybody in the government isn't, you know, fully on board gung-ho with this whole Ark of the Covenant idea, it's kind of a leave no stone unturned type situation. Like, if they could find this fucking otherworldly wonder weapon, I mean, it's at least worth throwing some remote viewers at and seeing, you know, what we can dig up. So, I mean, I think the fact that, like you said, the federal government is at least acknowledging the possibility of this sort of thing should lead us to believe that there's some validity to it. And again, what better way to cover the tracks of what they're really doing than, oh, nothing to see here. Those are just fairy tales and Bible stories while they're like actively trying to find these devices.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that part of the whole Pizzagate documents, they talk about, you know, trying to enter the tomb of Gilgamesh, which I know isn't necessarily biblical, but it kind of parallels that line. So, I mean, clearly there's an interest in this stuff, and it's undeniable at this point that, you know, whether this thing is some type of advanced technology that we don't understand because it's so advanced and people put this magic connotation on it, or it's literally an item that has been blessed and touched by God, there's clearly some type of aspect to this that they can see and use as a weapon. Even going into, again, the Spear of Destiny, when it goes into the Nazis, like, their interest wasn't in just collecting it for the religious means. Like, they had other intentions with it because their whole intention was to create wonder weapons.
Yeah, and again, a lot of people, I think, will focus on the religious aspects of things to kind of downplay them or poo-poo them. And at the end of the day, whether it's some artifact that has, you know, religious power and significance, or it has some sort of advanced technological significance that we don't understand or have yet. I mean, at the end of the day, that's kind of splitting hairs, if you ask me. It's still some advanced thing that we don't understand. The only difference is where it came from.
Exactly. And I guess I will start to wrap this one up since this has probably gone a lot longer than I intended it to. And then I know that you have a really, really good one to dive into, and I don't want to miss any of that. So without further ado, I know that you guys probably want to dive into this more. So I will include all the links down in the show description so you guys can even go and check out this CIA document yourself. But without further ado, let's dive into Orin's stuff.
I'm going to get a
Orin,
beer
so what
first.
are we getting into, my dude?
I'm getting into
an
another
allotment
beer.
first? Okay, fair enough.
All right.
I will bring everything up, and if there's anybody out there watching, you know, Warren's got to get his allotments every once in a while. We can't say anything else about it. It is what it is, man. So, give us 1 minute, and we will be hopping back in, my friends.
All right, so we've got kind of a fun one to talk about now. It's a conspiracy, but a little more lighthearted than, you know, some of the conspiracies we've talked about, and I think it's kind of a good kind of palate cleanser, no pun intended, after all the real deep biblical stuff we were just talking about. All right, so this article comes via the Daily Mail, which we've gotten articles from multiple times. It seems to be the well we keep going back to. But anyway, the article is titled, Chilling Claim, Mountain Dew Flavors Predicted 4 Deadly U.S. Disasters. So, hell yeah, Walker and Texas Ranger. All right, so I'm just going to go through this article. If you want to jump in at any point, Shane, just feel free. So here we go. A wild conspiracy theory has emerged from the depths of the internet, claiming that new Mountain Dew flavors have foretold deadly disasters across the U.S. The unusual claim comes from content creator Maverick Bailey, or @MaverickApproach on Instagram, who is known for his unconventional takes and believes major events have strangely coincided with the launch of certain Mountain Dew flavors. This is a quote. It seems like every time they make a big push with a new flavor, it correlates with a certain event, Bailey said during a recent interview. He pointed out that Star Spangled Splash was released in 2024, shortly before the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge, its patriotic name eerily echoing the national symbolism of the event. Similarly,
and just to throw in the context if people didn't catch it, Francis Scott Key was the one that wrote the Star Spangled Banner.
Yeah, I
don't
think
know
it
if
talks
everybody
about
knows
that a little later
I want
in
to throw
the
that in.
article. Similarly, Mountain Dew Code Red hit shelves just 3 months before 9/11, with theorists, drawing a connection between the flavor's name and the emergency alert status that followed the attacks. Bailey also connected other flavors to the Maui wildfires and the global CrowdStrike blackout that crippled millions of Windows devices last year. Now he's sounding the alarm over Mountain Dew's upcoming flavor, Baja Midnight, set to launch this summer. Quote, this new flavor could be referring to the witching hour, which is at 12. I always thought the witching hour was 3 o'clock, but tomato.
That's what I thought too.
Bailey shared in an Instagram video. My guess is that we are going to see something very weird on a paranormal level, or something that is going to make us question everything. He added that it could even signal a devastating cyber blackout. Well, that seems more likely than some large-scale paranormal event, I think. But
I mean, Project Bluebeam?
Wouldn't that be a blue flavor, though? I mean, that's right there in front of them.
You can't make it too obvious. I mean, purple is a variant of blue in a weird way.
That is true, I guess. All right, so Mountain Dew commented on Bailey's Instagram video discussing the wild theory, saying, quote, keep your voice down. So, Mountain Dew's kind of playing into this, which I think
the conspiracy continues.
While Mountain Dew made a joke about the theory, there is no evidence to support any of Bailey's claims. Bailey shared his latest update on the Maverick Files, where he outlined connections he's drawn between Mountain Dew and flavors and disasters. This article kind of repeats itself a lot. He pointed out that Code
Good
Red...
old Daily Mail, it's probably AI written. Partially AI written. Somebody probably wrote a paragraph and then said, expand on this, please.
He pointed out that Code Red launched in May of 2001. We already talked about that. In 2019, Mountain Dew introduced Maui Burst, a pineapple-flavored soda. Bailey claims it foreshadowed the 2023 wildfires that devastated Maui. So we're talking about like a 4-year difference there. That, I think, is enough you could just chalk up to coincidence, but that's just me.
I mean, even the idea of predictive programming, I've been talking about this one for a while, that people think it's like this magical concept, but my understanding of it more so is that you put stuff in people's heads so that that's the first thing they think of.
Yeah, like
the
when
whole
it does
9/11
happen,
thing.
they're kind of prepared for it.
Yeah, like the whole 9/11 thing. When everybody thinks of New York, they think of the Twin Towers, and that's been portrayed in every single movie. The main thing you see every single time you see New York is the Twin Towers. So theoretically, if anybody was going to do anything, that would be the main point of attack, because that's what you solidified in people's minds as that establishing point. That's what I think happens with a lot of this stuff. It's not necessarily predicting things. It's a matter of setting up the dominoes and waiting for somebody to knock them over.
Well, kind of piggybacking off of that, the article goes on to say, quote, it's not predictive programming. It's the script. They know it, write it, and implement it. On August 8th of 2023, high winds and dry weather caused wildfires to develop in a bunch of Hawaiian words I can't pronounce on the island of Maui. These wildfires affected approximately Everybody knows about the wildfires. Bailey also linked the 2024 flavor Star Spangled Splash to the collapse of Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge, noting that Key wrote the Star Spangled Banner, like you mentioned before. On March 26, the ship suffered a power outage and crashed into one of the Key Bridge's support columns, causing the entire bridge to come down and killing 6 construction workers. Mountain Dew reintroduced its pitch black flavor in 2023 for a limited time and made it exclusive in October of 2024. Bailey believes the flavor foretold the July 2024 CrowdStrike outage that caused widespread IT disruptions. He pointed out that pitch black, with its ominous name and dark branding, coincided eerily with what he called the biggest IT blackout of all time. The CrowdStrike Blackout affected more than 8 million devices around the globe, shutting down airlines, airports, public transit, healthcare, and financial services. Bailey's theory was discussed on the Sunday Cool podcast this month, which focuses on comedy and conspiracy theories. The hosts Josh Hooper and Andy Danoon also highlighted that Mountain Dew is owned by Pepsi, and Pepsi worked with the CIA in the 1970s. Worried that the president of worried that President Salvador Allende's socialist agenda could jeopardize PepsiCo's operations in Chile. Then Chairman Donald Kendall contacted President Nixon directly. What could possibly go wrong? Following Kendall's request, the CIA organized a plot to overthrow Allende, including providing arms to the Chilean opposition. Does the CIA work with Pepsi? Hooper asked during the podcast. Danoon replied, I think it's confirmed at this point. So,
and just to throw it in, too, when I was looking up those CIA documents yesterday, I ended up finding a couple of documents, which maybe we can dive into on a future episode, but it's basically breaking down the idea of the Illuminati cards, and is basically saying that they're predicting the future and they have all these events already figured out before we're getting to them type of a thing.
There's a lot of wild stuff with like the Illuminati card game and like the Trump assassination quote unquote attempts and all that. So yeah, that would be a fun one.
Yeah, it's not even, like I said, just conspiracy theories with us on the internet. Like, I found a handful of CIA documents. The CIA has literally dived into those cards. So, like, that's when it gets extra weird, that it's not just people on the internet connecting stuff. Like, the CIA is like, yeah, they're guessing stuff. What's going on here?
Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here, people. We're just using things under Project Stargate and trying to predict the future and upcoming events. I mean, definitely possible.
Yeah,
who knows?
but so kind of where I land on this is, you know, I think there is obviously the whole predictive programming aspect with, you know, pretty much anything that's out there in the media. I think a lot of this probably can be chalked up to just coincidence and people trying to put pieces together that, you know, might not actually be there. If you look hard enough, you can find connections with anything. But I thought it was kind of fun to think about and talk about, if nothing else. And Mountain Dew's delicious. So there you go.
As they say.
The conspiracy continues.
And I guess that's a good introduction into our last topic for today. And just like most of the comical articles that we tend to dive into towards the end, this one also comes from Florida, because that's our other honeypot we dive into is anything Florida.
This has been like a redneckerific episode. We've talked about Jesus and Mountain Dew and now Florida.
And wait, it's going to get even more redneck. Just wait what the context is. I'm sure that you've seen the story, but we had to talk about it on the show.
All right,
so
let's go.
And I have the initial local news report, because you got to do the local news report. It's just so cheesy and awful that it's enjoyable. And then we'll dive into an interview with this specific person, a specific portion of it, because I found it hilarious. So let's dive into this one.
First, for the Great New York State Fair, your chance to see for yourself the mysterious, elusive Bigfoot. I affectionately call it Sasquatch.
At least a gentleman who claims to have found what he says is Bigfoot.
Well, it's just factually inaccurate on so many different levels.
Years. I've been to the Adirondacks, never seen him.
I've been searching for him for years.
Oh, yeah,
Jeremy Skiba. Yeah, seriously, I'm a huge fan.
Wow.
Did you check out my bumper sticker on my car? Jeremy Skiba. Found him. Let's take a look.
Is this woman drunk?
Probably.
Does it exist? What is it? Where does it come from?
It's a question not only William Shatner ponders, but so have I. Is Bigfoot real? According to Snake Stuart,
Look at this fucking guy.
God, he's great.
I was shooting audio into the woods of howls, and I started getting howls back. That's when the spine started tingling, and I knew we had something more definitive out there.
Then when camping with some friends, Snake made the life-changing discovery.
I smelled something real pungent. I follow my nose deeper, 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 and bam! Bigfoot's body, 8 foot long in a poison ivy patch. It was so stinky. I had to call up some friends, help me get this body out of the woods. It was decomposing quite rapidly.
Snake says he found this Bigfoot north of Old Forge. Now I'll take a Bigfoot of my own over here, where there's also pieces of evidence, such as this fur sample and the footprint from the day Snake found Dak.
There might have been two Bigfoots battling. It could have been something to do with a mating ritual, or it could have been just two males. We're really not sure about what transpired, but there was definitely two at the site where we found the body.
Well,
If
it's
there
just
might be
factually
multiple
inaccurate on
Bigfoots
so many
out there,
different levels.
I needed to know if other urban legends could be true.
If I got Bigfoot, let me tell you, brother, there could be anything out there.
Becoming a believer at the New York State Fair. For News Channel 9, I'm Jeremy Skiba.
So, what are your thoughts on this one, other than the initial?
Bullshit.
Well, old Snake there, I'm not sure if he's trying to be a cryptozoologist or a professional wrestler. Like, he's really towing the line there. It could go either way. For our audio listeners out there, he's
definitely a Floridian.
Yeah, he's wearing like this fluorescent headband and like some fucking Pit Viper sunglasses and got like bleach blonde hair. Yeah, he's like Macho Man Randy Savage, the cryptozoologist out there. But anyway, it's this kind of bullshit that makes people, think cryptozoology is a joke. And, anybody who believes or talks about this sort of thing is crazy or just full of shit. And I mean, the fact that there's a lot of people nowadays that are putting more stock in this sort of thing and the validity and the possibility of cryptids and any type of strangeness. I mean, you got to combat it with this sort of shit in the media. You got to make sure that nobody takes this shit too seriously.
Now, this is a full 10-minute interview, but I want to get into one specific portion. Would you like to hear what he has to say to the people that don't believe him? Because why not, right?
I bet it's fucking riveting.
Oh, it is. It is fantastic. So let's get into this one. And again, if anybody wants to watch this full 10 minutes of this guy, talking straight,
bullshit,
you guys are more than welcome to, but we're only going to clip a certain part out of it. So,
okay.
You touched on a couple of key things that I want to talk about. So you were worried about, who could you trust, and your mind was blown. You could barely believe it. So what would you say to the skeptics out there that say, oh, no way, you found Bigfoot?
Bullshit.
Right, so this is the
look at this fucking guy.
He looks even more like a professional wrestler in this clip.
Conspiracy theorists, okay? So there is a huge portion of Bigfoot believers who say Bigfoot is an alien. Bigfoot is an interdimensional being who visits us like Slender Man. Or Bigfoot is part angel coming down from above to mate with a mammal to ingratiate itself with us. There's a lot of people who are pissed off, who are angry at me, Snake Stuart, because I found Bigfoot, and what I've found out through
talking
DNA
in third
testing
person
is that my specimen is actually part Neanderthal, so it has a lot in common with human beings.
How did he find this out?
Alien. It is not a Nephilim. It is not all of these outrageous things that these other people are talking about. So there's a lot of people angry at me, and I don't care because what we got is definitive proof.
He just keeps smoking his sunglasses, man. That's like the third time.
Bringing it straight to the New York State Fair, which
you just gave up on it.
A global reach. It has hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people are going to be able to see this and be a part of this,
and also pay to see it.
Exhibition, which is going to change the history books, like literally. I can only trust mass audience with this project. So that's the whole idea behind this, is getting away from the skeptics, bypassing big institutions in science, and bringing this thing directly to you and saying, take a look at this. This is Bigfoot. Bigfoot is here. It is real. My mind's blown. Your mind's blown. I'm in it with you. I'm not an outsider. I'm not preaching at you. I'm just telling you the facts. So that's my situation at the moment. And I'm sorry if I'm talking fast. I'm just excited.
Well, it's just factually inaccurate on so many different levels.
All right. So what's your thoughts on this guy, other than the fact that obviously if he really had something, the actual researchers like Dr. Jeff Meldrum, Clint Berrickman, like any of them, dude, like any of them would be going out. Ron Moorhead, any of them would be going and checking this out. Why have I not heard shit out of it other than at the fair?
I mean, first off, you need to stop whatever you're doing and invite this guy to come on the show right now.
Oh my God. We just can't give him any context because clearly we're not the type of people he'd want to talk to after this whole thing that he just said.
Yeah, I think he'd get a little butthurt. But anyway, yeah, like you said, the fact that this is at the fucking state fair tells you everything you need to know. I mean, if you want to feel better about yourself, just go to the state fair. I mean, it's like the lowest common denominator there is. So the fact that that's his captive audience, I mean, I think tells you everything you need to know about this. This guy's a fucking joke. Like I said, this sort of thing is why people think that anybody who is legitimately interested in Bigfoot or cryptozoology or anything like that is a lunatic. And, you know,
maybe he's a psyop.
Yeah, it's news reports like this that, you know, keep that mindset circulating.
See, you know, when we talked a long time ago about the Alligator Man episode about, you know, I missed the possibility of roadside attractions, things like that. This is not what I had in mind. Like, make some weird mythical creature that just has no context of anything. Don't be coming out here with this stupid fake-ass looking Bigfoot. Like, if this thing's been sitting decomposing for weeks, it's not going to be that well preserved. Plus, looking at the pictures, dude, there's no depth to this thing's nostrils. Like, and again, if this was something, there would have been a lot more for it. Like, why have I not heard one serious researcher from the cryptid community even make a slight reference to this? Like, a father and son had a crossing in Michigan, and that blew up in the Bigfoot community. And this guy's claiming to have a body, and not anybody in the Bigfoot community has talked about this shit besides us, apparently, now.
Well, because it's a fucking joke. And, you know, the next time something more legitimate does pop up, people are going to be like, oh, well, Snake Stuart here, I mean, he said the same thing. And he looks like he's ready for a cage match with Macho Man Randy Savage. So, I mean...
Shame, 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 shame.
Yeah.
Like you said, these are the people that give all of us a bad name. Fuck this guy.
Yeah. Fuck him all the way off, but see if you can get him on the show.
Yeah, let's just get him to go to the Panhandle, and then we'll just, you know, the bridge will be gone. He can just live out in the Panhandle. He can still be a Floridian. He can just stay way the fuck out there.
I give Snake Stuart 1-star review.
I want to see this guy go take a picture of Robert the Doll and then have this whole story about how this thing ruined his life, because he would be that guy, right?
Have him in what's the comedian, Matt Rife?
Oh, yeah, the fucking other lunatic that's destroying that whole thing.
Those two fuckers need to have a cage match. That's what needs to happen.
Dude, did I give you an update on that?
You did.
Oh, I did give you an update. Okay, yeah. So I filled in everybody that he's turning it into a YouTube creator content house.
Yes.
Like, he's just fucking destroying any validity that there ever was to that. Because just off of that, people are producing content. Staging is going to happen. Like, that, the whole Warren house, not that the Warrens had any, like, really good validity to them, because any serious paranormal researcher typically thinks the Warrens are
more
bullshit.
Validity.
Yeah, especially if, you know, Matt Rife goes and buys this Bigfoot, keeps it at the Warren house, you know, him and Snake can run it together. You know, that'd just be massive content, right? Just content, pumping it out every single day.
Oh, Snake
Today
and Matt
we found
just really
the fucking
the
Mothman.
Straight over there.
Today I'm going to go find the body of the Mothman. Today I'm going to go find the body of the Grafton Monster. They're going to have a whole collection there, man, within a couple weeks.
So obviously this guy can literally sniff them out, so it's just that easy.
Apparently we need to bring him on Bigfoot hikes. He's like the, you know, the truffle pig of Squatches, apparently.
He's certainly something. So.
He's definitely something, and I got a lot of choice names for it.
Okay.
So, comedy article out of Florida. I'm hoping that you view that as a comedy article to all the listeners out there, because it is definitely a fucking joke. And again, just for the listeners out there, if you didn't catch it the first time,
bullshit. Well, it's just factually inaccurate on so many different levels.
And ain't that the truth?
All right. Well, thank you, Shayn, for all the research you put together for this one. And thank you, Joe Rogan, for your kind words and input. For all you guys out
clips
there.
And clips.
Yes.
Clips on both ends.
So our next episode of Bizarre Inquiries is going to be October the 2nd. That's a Thursday. We're going to be full on into Scoopy season by then. So that should be a lot of fun. It's going to be on the Bizarre Realities Media. I'm still getting used to saying that. YouTube channel. Roughly 7:15 Eastern time, so you guys be sure to submit questions, articles, videos, anything of that nature, and also join in on the chat.
And if you guys happen to want to send us any clips, articles, anything like that, or contact us for any reason whatsoever, you guys can do so through email on both shows, so bizarreencounters@outlook.com or Inquiries of Our Reality podcast@outlook.com, or you guys could always hit us up on social media. You guys could always go to our link tree and hit us up on the submission form. Or, last but not least, you guys can call or text the Bizarre Reality Media hotline. And just to throw it in there, because I didn't throw it in the beginning of the show, even though I guess I didn't really reference the hotline number. We're trying to put together a Halloween grab bag with your guys' experiences. So if anybody has any experiences that they might want to share and be included in that episode, feel free to call into the hotline, leave a voicemail, and I'll get in contact with you to make sure we have full permission to be able to use it and everything on the show. And I'll give you guys a big shout out. And if you guys are interested in doing that, that number is 313-364-1551. And if you happen to miss that, it is available down in the show notes.
And if any of you guys out there want to support this bullshit, you can follow the show on Instagram or Facebook.
You guys can always go and check out the Bizarre Reality Media Patreon, where you'll get this show, Increase of All Reality, Bizarre Encounters, everything, the full gambit. And there's 2 tiers available, ad-free / early access, and also full access with some bonus episodes behind the paywall, of course.
And you guys can check out the merch store with the t-shirts starting at the oddly specific price of $15.68 plus shipping.
Woohoo! That's not a bad price, especially considering that the shipping ain't too bad. Now that I've switched over to a new printer,
The
with
shirts
way better
are only
quality t-shirts.
$15.68, but shipping is $1,000.
$1,000, $1 million. That's not high enough. $1 billion.
Yeah, economy's bad.
Yeah, the economy's real bad. You guys can always go and leave a review for this train wreck. 1 and 5 stars only. And of course, we will read those ones on the show for you guys and give you guys a big shout out. And if you're a 1-star, we might talk shit, but hey, that's part of the fun.
And you can like, share, and subscribe and do all the internet things. You guys know how the internet works.
And of course, you guys can share all of our bizarre shows that we do all across the bizarre media spectrum.
And you can catch live shows on the YouTube channel and the Twitch channel, which I still don't quite understand what it is.
We'll figure it out eventually. I think it's for gaming, but hey, we're using it all the same, so fuck it. We're going to take it over with podcasts. But
can you put us on OnlyFans?
I could definitely put us on OnlyFans. I'll
Let's
set it up like a
that.
Patreon.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could definitely do
Fuck
that. I mean,
Twitch.
they're trying to move into a new facet where it's not just pornography. They're like really trying to just have normal creators, because that was the intention originally, was for artists, and then it kind of got taken over as porno.
Well,
so
I mean, as much as you've been talking about dicks on this episode, they might not let us on there anymore then.
it's the X-rated content. It's Bizarre Encounters After Dark. That's what we used to say, right?
It's too explicit for OnlyFans.
Well, if you want to possibly see if we might have an OnlyFans in the future, the only way that you guys can do that and find all of the links that we mentioned is in our link tree, which is available down in that show description. And as usual, I like to keep it bizarre. We dive into some bizarre things. We throw some bizarre theories. And that's what we tend to do around the Bizarre Media, Bizarre Encounters, Bizarre Inquiries family. So without further ado, I have been the one that they call Shane Squatch.
And I have been the big, bad Boo Daddy, not Snake Stuart, Orin Felix.
And we're just reminding you guys to always, always stay bizarre and let your minds wander.
Is music
Goddamn
coming?
theme song? I'm trying. It's not one
There
to
we
go.
go.
There it goes. We got it. We figured it out.
Whoa.
That belongs in a museum.
Well, it's just factually inaccurate on so many different levels.
Bullshit!